Welcome to TopperHQ, our own study hub. Today, we're diving into a world that's completely invisible to the naked eye, a world that is absolutely teeming with life, shaping everything from the food we eat to the very air we breathe. So, let's explore this hidden universe of microorganisms.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. Even when you think you've got the whole room to yourself, you are in fact surrounded by trillions, and I mean trillions of other living things. So how on earth is that possible?
That's right, they're in the air you're breathing right now, in the water you drink, deep down in the Earth's soil. In fact, your own body is home to so many microbes that they actually outnumber your human cells. It's kind of mind-blowing. This huge invisible population is what we call microorganisms, or microbes for short. And get this, they're the oldest form of life on Earth, and they've been running this planet for billions of years. So what exactly makes something a microorganism? Well, it really all comes down to size. The name kind of gives it away, right? Micro means tiny. These organisms are so small that you absolutely need a microscope to even get a glimpse of them. Most of them are just a single cell, a whole, complete living thing packed into one microscopic little package.
Okay, so to really understand this world, first we need to meet the main inhabitants. Think of them as the cast of characters in this incredible microscopic drama. Each group has its own unique style and, of course, its own role to play.
First up, we've got bacteria, the true pioneers of life on our planet. Their body structure is super simple, just one cell. But don't let that fool you. These guys are masters of survival. You can find them in the most extreme places you can imagine, from boiling hot springs to the frozen ice of Antarctica. They come in all sorts of shapes too, rods, spheres, spirals, and their relationship with us, well, it's complicated. Some are absolutely essential for our health, while others, well, they're famous for causing some nasty diseases. Next in the lineup, we have fungi. Now, when you hear fungi, your brain probably jumps straight to mushrooms, and you'd be right. But the fungal kingdom also includes a massive number of microscopic members. Their main job in nature is to be the planet's cleanup crew. They are expert decomposers. And a key player for us humans is yeast, a tiny, single-celled fungus that has a huge impact on our food. Then there are the protozoa. How cool is this? Their name literally means first animals. These single-celled organisms are a little more complex than bacteria, and they act like miniature animals, hunting and moving around for food. You probably remember the shape-shifting amoeba or the super-fast paramecium from science class. And while a lot of them are harmless, some, like Plasmodium, are infamous for causing really serious diseases like malaria. And finally, the most mysterious character of them all, the virus. This is where things get really interesting. Are viruses even alive? It's a real debate. Outside of a living cell, they're basically inert, just a speck of dust. But the second they get inside a host cell, they spring into action, hijacking its machinery to make thousands of copies of themselves. They're the ultimate parasites, existing only to replicate. Okay, we've met the cast. Now, let's focus on the friend part of our story. It's so easy to just think of all microbes as germs, but honestly, the truth is, we couldn't live without our microscopic allies. They are absolute essential workers in our daily lives. Let's start with something you might have in your fridge right now, curd. Ever wonder how liquid milk magically turns into thick, tangy curd overnight? Well, it's all thanks to a bacteria called lactobacillus. When you add a bit of that starter curd to some warm milk, these bacteria just get to work. They start eating the milk sugar, which is called lactose, and as a byproduct, they produce lactic acid. This acid then causes all the proteins in the milk to tangle up and solidify, and voila, you've got curd. It's pretty much microbial magic happening in your kitchen. And what about that soft, fluffy bread we all love? The secret ingredient there is another microbe, yeast. When bakers mix yeast into dough, this tiny fungus starts feasting on all the sugars. As it breathes, it releases tiny bubbles of carbon dioxide gas. These gas bubbles get trapped in that sticky dough, which makes it puff up and rise. When you bake it, those little air pockets are exactly what gives the bread its light, spongy texture. So this process, the one behind both the curd and the bread, it has a name, fermentation. It was actually the great scientist Louis Pasteur who first helped us really get what was going on. Fermentation is simply microbes breaking down sugar into other useful things, like acid, gas, or even alcohol. And this one process, it's a cornerstone of the food industry, giving us not just bread and dairy, but also wine, beer, and vinegar. But microbes are also literal lifesavers.
The discovery of antibiotics, which started with penicillin from the penicillium mold, completely revolutionized medicine. These are basically chemicals made by one microbe to fight off another. And vaccines? Well, they often use dead or severely weakened microbes to act as a training dummy for our immune system. They teach our bodies how to recognize and defeat a dangerous invader without us ever having to actually get sick.
But of course, the story has a darker side. We've talked about the friends, and now it's time to meet the foes. Because some microorganisms are not our allies. They're invaders that can cause some serious harm.
The general term we use for any disease-causing microbe is a pathogen. You can think of them as the outlaws of the microbial world. When these pathogens get into our bodies, they mess with our normal functions, and that's what leads to illness. So really, a pathogen is just a microbe that has turned against us. Let's look at a few examples of how these different pathogens operate. The bacterium that causes tuberculosis can travel right through the air when an infected person coughs. Cholera, another bacterial disease, spreads through contaminated water or food. The chickenpox virus can be passed through the air or just by direct contact. And malaria is a unique case. It's caused by a protozoan, but it needs a mosquito to act as a taxi service, carrying it from one person to the next. And that brings us to a really important distinction: the difference between a carrier and a vector. A carrier is a person who's infected, but they don't show any symptoms. They feel fine, but they can still pass the pathogen on to other people. A vector, on the other hand, is a different animal entirely, like a mosquito or a tick that acts as that shuttle service, physically moving the pathogen from an infected person to a healthy one. That mosquito carrying malaria, a classic vector.
So microbes can be incredibly helpful or incredibly harmful. Our survival really depends on finding a balance, encouraging the good ones while keeping the bad ones in check. Let's look at some of the strategies we use to manage this really complex relationship.
A major battleground for this is our food. To stop harmful microbes from spoiling what we eat, we've come up with some pretty clever preservation techniques over the years. Salting and sugaring work by literally pulling the moisture out of food, and microbes need water to survive. Oil and vinegar create an acidic environment that most bacteria just can't stand. Pasteurization, named after Louis Pasteur, of course, uses a quick blast of heat to kill off pathogens in things like milk. And something as simple as sealing food in an airtight package just denies microbes entry in the first place.
But, this whole friend or foe label is, in the end, way too simple. Beyond just helping or harming us directly, microbes are the true unsung heroes of our planet. They are the engines that drive critical nutrient cycles, like the nitrogen cycle. You have bacteria in the soil that take nitrogen from the air, which plants can't use, and they fix it into a form that plants can absorb. Without these tiny little engineers, most life on Earth would just stop.
So we're left with this incredible duality, aren't we? They're the creators of our food and the cause of our diseases. They're the foundation of life in the soil and the reason things decay. They are both our greatest friend and our worst foe. But when you look at the big picture, the answer to this final question is a definite, resounding no. Our world is and always has been a microbial planet. We just happen to live on it.